Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
Oh, I love the voice note feature, y'all.
Cassandra Parker.
I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
And Rachel Rogers.
We have the power to change it.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Meets Cloud. Happy Tuesday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We hope you are doing well. I'm faking it so well. Did you see how I just turned on the energy?
Girl, you did.
I sure did. That is not authentic this morning.
It is authentically fake.
It is authentically, I want you to have an amazing day and week. But I'm on the struggle bus.
And you know what? That's okay. Because this is real life and this is real talk, and we all are on the struggle bus. This has been a long week at work. Rachel's been traveling. It has been we had a midnight deployment this week. It's been things.
Yeah.
As IT leaders, we have to be there to support our team when things happen in the evenings sometimes. And even though we're just there,
we're there for moral support for the most part. Or to call it.
Right.
To call it, if there's a go or no go, they don't want to be the
There's
ones
a rollback that needs to happen. We're there, but it went well. It's just been a lot.
Yeah. Well, and traveling, there's, 4 a.m. wake up calls and all the things and no sleep because, it's like we talked about the other day. It's great. You get to meet so many people, you get to do so many things, you get to have so many experiences, but at the same point, right? It's early mornings, really late nights, no real break in between. It's a lot of mental load. It's a lot of, you don't get to talk to everybody when you go somewhere because so many people want to have conversations. And so you have a conversation with one or two, or maybe three, when there were probably like 15 others, that you wanted to connect with, but you didn't have the opportunity. So it's highly, highly, highly scheduled, which I appreciate on the one hand, and I have to fly back next week too. But on the other hand, when you're so scheduled, it's really hard to make sure that you are as authentic as you want to be because you are very mindful of your windows, of your travel times, of all the things. So I'm looking forward to the day where I finally, in an organization as large as ours, there's so many people to meet. And every time you've met someone, you still have hundreds of others you haven't. And so I'm looking forward to even making a dent in the year in. I don't feel like I really made a dent in that list.
Well, and don't underestimate what mental stimulation does to your energy level. I mean,
to your physical body.
I think people associate exhaustion with like moving around more or having more tasks to complete, but even the incoming stimuli, is that how you say it? Stimuli?
My Oura ring literally asked me if I was okay.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you have been incredibly stressed. Even though I told it I was traveling. I told it was going to have late work. Like I pre-set all the tags because I was like, this is coming. And I do the same thing for next week when I travel next week. And it was just like your stress levels have been all the way at the top all day because you're having to be so on. I think when you have to be that on, it's just really draining. That's why I would never want to be a celebrity because if you think about it, like every time they go outside, they have to be that on. They have to be that mindful of, did I say the right thing? Did I, stand the right way? Did somebody get a bad picture of me? Like that kind of intensity. No, thank you. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, how are the kids doing lately? Any updates? Any news? I will tell you, last week we talked about the National Reading, whatever it was, week.
Yeah.
Rowan dressed up as a book character today.
Oh,
that
nice.
was he remembered. Yeah, he remembered that it was this week on his own. He prompted us last night. He already knew exactly which character and book, excuse me, he wanted to do. I was shocked. He got it out. He was so, y'all should have seen him last night. He was so proud because we always put his clothes out the night before.
Mhm.
And he was like, okay, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to grab this. And he sat it out and he was talking me through his whole like plan.
That's
I
awesome.
I know.
So he found something he was passionate about. Like that's when it makes it worth it, when you're not forcing it, but they're so
Yeah.
excited about it that they want to do it on their own. That's
He's
fantastic.
passionate about his Bumblebee costume because that's what he
Hey.
was, the Bumblebee from Transformers. He has some Transformers books.
Oh, nice.
Cute.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to be Bumblebee. And I was like, you go.
See, I
Yeah.
would not let Liam dress up like a superhero because he wanted to be Iron Man because he likes these Iron Man books. And I was like, I don't think that's what they're going for, buddy. I should have just let him go.
Yeah,
I
But
don't
he
think-
wanted to
I don't- I
wear-
was going to say, I don't think I care.
Yeah.
He dressed
You have
up
it?
like I
Go
should
for it.
have. He dressed up. Well, we didn't have it. That was the key. I was going to have
Didn't
to
have
get
the
it. And I was
book,
not doing
yeah.
that.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was not doing that. But he dressed up like they did like Future Reader Day. So it was like Career Day. And he dressed up in
Mhm.
his same costume he wore for Halloween. So he was a policeman. The hat, the whole thing. Oh, so stinking cute. Well, he loves that costume so much. Today was where your jacket's gear, because they're the yellow jackets. So wear your jacket's gear and wear a hat, your favorite hat. Well, he wanted to wear his police outfit again because he's like, he thought jacket and hat.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he has a jacket and his
Hey,
hat. And I was like,
he's not wrong.
he's not. But I was like, well, that's everybody else is going to be wearing their jackets gear. And so I talked him into it because he has some really cute Crocs that have the jacket on the toe. And so that's how I talked him into wearing those. But
I
Nice.
found myself thinking, so I'm sorry, I can't find my thoughts this morning. So Rowan is 8, he'll be turning 9 in the summer. He is like broaching that age where they're still very much children. They still are into like very immature things, but they're starting to become this social thing where there's some things that aren't cool anymore, and you're starting to pick up on social cues when you're in groups of friends and stuff, and navigating that. I can tell by the things he says and his comments and stuff. And so we're trying to kind of figure out like how much do you guide your children to try to help them avoid landmines while letting them still just be kids. Like, I don't want to, like, I'm trying to keep him from being bullied or made fun of,
Oh,
but I
Right.
don't want to like project something onto him that he shouldn't have to worry about yet. So
yeah.
this morning when he's dressed up in this very loud, elaborate Bumblebee Halloween costume, standing waiting for the bus, my immediate thought as the bus came up the hill was, oh my God, he's about to step on this bus with this full get up on.
and they're going to make fun of him.
Right. Yeah. I pray to God there are other children who decided to dress up today.
Right.
And go all out. And I had a sigh of relief because when the bus stopped, I saw a child dressed as Cat in the Hat with the hat and all the things. And I was like, they're still doing it. They're still doing it at 8. Thank you, Lord. But, the things that go through your mind as a parent.
Well, because you
the
worry about
thing-
them.
Yeah.
You do worry about them. I think you've got to, it's weird because the other thing to think about is, what started happening in Kenley in middle school. And you got to think like AI wasn't where it is now. So it was very clear when something was made from AI versus when nowadays a photo, you may or may not be able to tell the difference, right? It's gotten that good. But those were the types of things that started happening from a bully perspective. It wasn't anything you would have actually worn. It wasn't anything you would have actually done, right? It was somebody being mean, and it was a group of boys that had gone and taken photos of girls and done different things to them. And so it got escalated all the way up to school. It actually got escalated up to a police report because these boys were just doing this, right? And that's the sort of bullying nowadays that I think gets us into this really weird age of parenting. Because to your point, right? Your point is like, I can maybe help you with some behaviors that would make it less likely for somebody to try and stick you in a locker, right? Like that was the
Mhm.
big thing when we were growing up, getting stuck in a locker, getting a swirly, right? Like those sorts of things. They're like the things you tried to avoid, right? But nowadays, that's not even what's happening. I don't even know that kids still do that. Like it's more about these like online attacks that they go on.
Yeah.
Or if you post something, right? And it could be super innocent, like, look, I got a cute outfit. And then it's like, that's not cute. you must be rich. That's not fair. Like, it just the whole thing, because so many kids are keyboard warriors. And it's a whole different level from the bullying aspect. So I don't know. That's what I worry about. Like, and I mean, look, we're going through it and it's bad. I can't imagine in a couple years when your kids get to it, what it's become, because where AI will be, and it doesn't even matter if you don't give your kid the device. A lot of
Right.
parents are giving kids devices. And so it, yeah,
We
it's
we
hard.
have to have that conversation like every other week in this
Yeah.
house because there are other children Rowan's age
Mm-hmm.
whose parents have already given them devices like that. So he hears about it, he sees it
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
bus or when he's playing with neighborhood
Yeah.
friends, and we have to explain, like, listen, son, not every parent's going to do things the same way.
Nope.
And, just like you don't have a smartphone or a phone at all, some kids don't have gaming consoles. Some kids don't
Yeah.
have a Nintendo. So there's going to be sometimes you have things that your friends don't have, and sometimes they're going to have something you don't have. And that's just the way life works,
Well,
but it
and I
doesn't
can't
stop them from
imagine
asking.
it doesn't. They're always gonna. I mean, Liam is 5 going on 6, and he's already like, "When can I get a phone?" I'm like, "Never. It's gonna be forever." But honestly, I think that the saddest part about this whole entire thing is when Rachel, you were talking about like the swirlies and putting people in locker.
Mhm.
That requires a physical attack. You have to be
Right.
bold enough to
Right.
physically go and
Right.
put your hands on somebody to do something,
Mhm.
which a lot of
Mhm.
people are not willing to do.
Exactly.
But everybody has their device and everybody thinks
Mhm.
it's just okay to go out there and comment, and it's not, it doesn't matter. And now this whole anonymous thing where you can go and
Right.
comment anonymously, that lets
Mm.
them say absolutely whatever. And the other person, I mean, you had this, I saw an obituary in our small tiny town in North Georgia where a girl killed herself because she was bullied. She was
Yeah.
12 years old.
Yeah.
12 years old.
Well,
And that just blows my mind.
that's the thing too, like, Jeremy, talking about trying to set them up for not get bullied. There is a part too where not giving them a phone does get them bullied, because there is
I
a
Yeah,
don't
critical
care.
mass
I agree.
of
If you're gonna bully
phone.
him about something, let it be not having a
Let it
phone,
be
'cause
that.
I don't care.
Yeah, I would
I
be
might change my
interested
mind in the
too.
future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
Well,
never say
I mean,
never.
but like in middle school, I'm not saying elementary. I wouldn't advocate for
Oh, God.
elementary, but when they get in middle school and they start having after school activities and they start having more things, right? Is typically when parents then are like, all right, release the phones, right? So
I mean,
it's,
I
yeah,
have
I don't know
seen
what to
where
call it.
I think some parents are being pretty strategic and smart about it. I mean, I feel like the smarter you get, the kids just get smarter, so you're
They
always gonna be
do.
behind the 8 ball. But, like, I saw the other day, a parent who was saying he had said he would never do it. Like,
Mhm.
his son was gonna have to be, like, 16 or whatever. I don't remember now what he said. He said, "But I actually ended up changing my mind because my son put together a whole, like, basically pitch on why it's necessary for him at the age he is, and he had some good points." And he said, "Dad, you gotta think when you were growing up, you guys had a telephone on the wall
Yeah.
that your friends and family and whomever else could get in contact
Call.
with you." Yeah, he was like, "When I leave school, that's it. My contact with anybody outside of this house is immediately cut off." And I was like, "Dang," because so there is an
It's a
age
good point.
where that does,
We used to have a
become a
party
thing.
line, baby. We used to be
Yeah.
on the phone
Mhm.
for hours, like just laughing like fools and
Yeah,
talking about
exactly.
absolutely nothing. Who likes who and all those things.
Mhm.
So they did
Yeah.
end
That
up
makes
getting
sense.
him, yeah, so they got him a phone, but they just in however you do it, and I haven't researched how, it has no internet access,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it has no, I
No
forget, there's a few
apps.
different, yeah,
You
there's like
can
a few
you
different
can
things that it's locked down to, so it can text and
Yep.
call,
Yeah,
essentially.
and you can even control, like, they can't get texts from unknown numbers. They can't
Yeah.
get, like, there are a lot of parental controls you can put on them nowadays. There's also software you can install that allows you to monitor everything that is happening on the phone, and you can actually control it from your computer, so you can see what they're doing, when they're doing it, who they're talking to, if they are in group text messages, what's going on in those text messages. So you can control a lot of it if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. But I think part of it too kind of speaks to just everything that's going on these days. And I think bullying is one of those areas that has changed significantly from when we were growing up
Yes.
to the capabilities and powers these kids have these days.
They get
Well,
you
and
at home, not just at school and on the weekends. Like they
See,
can get to you at any time.
that was always my thing. When you left, I mean, imagine a world when you left work or you left school, it was done.
Right.
There was
Oh,
no follow
It's
up.
almost like that used to happen way back
know.
in the day.
It's almost like it's a twinkle you could potentially remember, but that's how it used to work, right? And so you'd get that mental break. You wouldn't have that overload. You wouldn't have
Mhm.
that same wouldn't lead to a lot of suicides because you weren't sitting there spinning in it because you weren't just
Right.
scrolling through it and seeing it again
You at
and
least
again and
could
again.
disassociate for long
Mhm.
enough to kind of get your bearings back and really feel like, okay, I know who I am and I'm good and this person's just wrong. Or, you got enough of that where you didn't have to worry about it. And now kids have to worry about it 24/7 everywhere they go.
And if you really wanted to like get it out, you would have to write a letter. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't just email, I couldn't just text you. Like
Right.
you had to put so much thought, just like you're talking about the physicalness, right, of throwing somebody into a locker.
Right.
The time it took to sit down and write the letter, to mail the letter, to do that. By the time you would get through all of that, most people probably didn't send it.
Well, I think, all those reasons and much more is why I'm so big on wanting to keep Rowan and Collier unplugged for as long as I can. I mean, like I want them to we all are subject to like peer pressure and
100%.
wanting to fit in. Like that is human evolution. I mean, that is survival. You have to fit in with your society from like an instinct level. But it would be nice if the kids could be, have had as much time as possible to form their own sense of their identity
Mhm.
and some of their, what do you call it, like values and things before they have so much outside opinion and influence coming in. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you have that with or without electronics, but it certainly is the velocity just goes through the roof when
It's
you're plugged in.
amplified. Yeah.
Well,
Have
and you
y'all-
have to have a different mindset because a lot of kids are like, it doesn't matter. I know who I am, and this is
Some
it,
are
and
born
that's
that
fine.
way.
Some are born
Right.
that way. Some are not. Some are just like,
Mhm.
well, I'm very shy and meek, and
Super
okay, go with the
susceptible.
flow.
Mhm.
So they're more susceptible to it, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Everyone's different.
Well, and how do you handle the gaming console right now? Because don't they have
It's
chat
locked
and stuff
down.
in that? Okay.
He only there are several games. That's another area of contention because
Yeah.
some of his friends have games that he's not allowed to be on.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
He only has local games like basketball and things that are
Okay.
just directly on his console. He does have what's the one? Not Roblox. He does not have Roblox.
Minecraft.
He has Minecraft, but a friend of ours who's very into all that stuff and plays himself was able to show Jessica how you set up the controls where it's not open chat.
Okay.
The friend requests have to be like accepted in things, and then you have to set it up where you can chat with that friend. I'm probably speaking about it all wrong because I don't deal with it. She does. Now, that's not to say that you don't have to sometimes check in because
Right.
their kids are smart and they can,
Yeah.
given enough time with it, they'll figure out ways around stuff. And,
Mhm.
So you got to check in and make
It's
sure
just
that's
the
still.
same as like when you used to figure out how to sneak out of the house, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just
They just can't do that anymore.
different,
Life
right?
360. Like
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Unless they hack the Life 360.
which is also
But I'm sure you probably haven't. Did I send you this, Cassandra, this TikTok watch?
no.
Okay. So I'm sure Rachel, because Kinley's way too old this would be silly to her, but it is a kid's GPS smartwatch with calling and SOS. So it doesn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
the internet, but it's like it kind of looks like a smartwatch. It's more
Yeah.
durable than that. And so it has a parent app that goes with it. So the parent app is where you can add family contacts or anybody you want them to be able to contact or vice versa on their watch. And then it has GPS. So you sign up for like a cellular plan that's like $10 a month or whatever through whichever carrier you want to use. So then when they're wearing the watch, you can see where they are on the app, and then you can text them or call them through that watch. But there's no, and then they have some like kids games and stuff on it. But in our case, I'm going to get that. We're going to get that for Rowan for his birthday because it's perfect for our community is very small. It's like 60 houses, and most of his friends, they all live on this one side that we're on. But still, him running 4 houses down, 5 houses down, a couple of them are around the corner where I can't see him anymore.
Right.
And we all of us parents, we know each other. We've become friends since living here. So we all know, like, we trust them to be at their houses. So they'll just kind of like move between houses. Like 1 minute they'll be at this kid's house, and then the next minute the whole group will move over here. But I need to know where he is, not only because I just need to know, but also like if I need to have you come home, or
Right.
I need to come.
Well, and you could
find
call
you.
him. You could say,
Exactly.
"Hey, come on."
This watch is perfect for that. I'll know which house they've made it to. I mean, as the parents, we usually text each other like, "Hey, the kids just showed up here," or whatever. But that's kind of inconvenient.
So it totally reminds me of a conversation we had at dinner the other night, where this notion of needing to know where your kids are.
Yeah.
Again, going back to when we grew up, wasn't a thing.
No,
right?
It sure wasn't.
You didn't know where anybody was.
I don't know how.
You just prayed. They walk through the door. And so this gentleman I was having dinner with, he was saying how, he wasn't getting his kid a smart device. He wasn't doing that, right? And his mom was like, I don't understand why you're not, like, you need to know where they are, and having kind of the same argument you were just stating. And he was like, Mom, when I grew up, you didn't know where I was. You didn't know what time I was coming home. You just hoped that you told me 9 o'clock and I was there by 9 o'clock. And if I wasn't there by 9 o'clock, you had no idea how to get in touch with me. And she was like, the neighborhood was watching you. And
that's true.
Like, I just died laughing. He's like, because it wasn't true. He's like, we didn't live by a bunch of people. Like, there was no neighborhood. He's like, so it's one thing if like your situation where you're talking about there's 60 homes and the moms communicate and all that. He's like, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
But that was a different time too. Like, I just feel like when we were kids, they'd lock the door and say, there's the hose water. You come back at lunch, there's a plate of sandwiches sitting out on the stoop, right? Like, you eat and you just keep on going. You had to figure out how to entertain yourself. But there also wasn't this, I'm not saying it didn't happen, because I mean, I listen to crime and I know that things happen in the 70s and 80s and 90s and all those eras. Okay. So yes, but things didn't happen at the rate in which they happen today. We don't have human trafficking where they're just picking kids up off of the street or walking into convenience stores and taking grown people out. I mean, it's mind-blowing the amount of danger that we have in our society now. Even though I live in a small town, like I said, like, there is just the overwhelming amount of, we can't trust that. I don't even remember us locking our doors when I was a kid at night. We didn't. Just went to bed.
That was the thing too of, did it change, or is the difference now you're more aware of it?
I think it's both. I think it's
maybe some of both.
A little bit of both.
I think the advancements we have made, I don't know about around the world, but in Western culture specifically, advancements in technology and just things we know and things we've studied about human behavior, I think in the ways that all the good people have gotten smarter, the bad people have also gotten smarter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've opened ourselves up to more vulnerabilities because we put our lives out there.
Correct.
For the world to see. It's very easy for people to figure out, like, oh, I think that girl's cute. I can tell where she lives because I know that landmark in the back of her picture, even if she didn't post her address. Like, people can find you, where before it was like, if you didn't live on my street, you didn't know.
But to your point, I think it was happening more back then than we really know it was. We just weren't aware. So I think it's
both.
It's both. But there's no village anymore.
No.
Like you were saying, like, even if you lived in a neighborhood, that's also not a thing anymore.
Well, I think COVID changed a lot of that. And I think we talked about that before, of just, now with so many people not moving, right? Because you can work from your house. You don't have patterns anymore. So even if you have a village in your neighborhood, you probably don't have a discernible pattern that would let somebody know whether or not something was really happening. Right. Because like I don't take my daughter to school every morning, but some mornings I do. So some mornings my car leaves and is back at a certain time, right? Or, some days I don't leave my house at all because there's no reason to, right? I've had a long day at work and everything just happens like that. So I think those patterns make a difference too. But it also reminds me of, I know you listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, Cassandra, and they were talking about, I was listening to this thing about serial killers and the fact that one of the big differences in society now is how quicker we can detect patterns that let us know that there's a serial killer versus like in the 80s or 70s or 60s, there's probably so many serial killers we don't ever know about because nobody could connect the dots. Like unless somebody was going out of their way to give you this huge signature that I'm a serial killer, right? You didn't know. And
or they accidentally talked to another officer in a different county who was like, hey, I have a much similar murder. Like that didn't happen. Like now they can search through databases and they can see like what are the patterns. So yeah.
So that's a good thing though, right? Like now that we're able to identify at least patterns of crime a little bit differently. And so they were saying like, they don't know that there's necessarily a rise or fall in serial killers because when you don't have the prior data, right, that really tells you how many were really out there, right? You don't know, you don't have a comparison, which I thought was like, I never thought about that, but I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and like things like DNA evidence, like back in the day, didn't matter. They didn't have the way to test it. Now you leave your DNA somewhere and somebody's going to find you on ancestry.com and you are getting yourself seriously in trouble.
That's what I thought was crazy about the Nancy Guthrie case when they started talking about touch DNA, which I was like, wait, we have touch DNA? You're like, I was used to like, okay, if you spit on something or you leave some blood behind, right? Like bodily fluids get it, DNA, but like you just touch something and now there's touching, but it's highly sensitive and it's only good for so many hours. And I was like, this is crazy. Things I would have never thought about that from a crime perspective, like the advancements we've made, but still with all of that, they got no hits.
Right.
So it's still.
Did we ever figure out what happened to her? Still out there? I quit following
she's still out there. She's still out there.
Bless
in
her.
some capacity.
I think she's not alive.
Yeah, I think
this took a
probably highly
dark
unlikely.
turn.
I know this took a dark turn. We're going to liven it up.
But if you're not tuning in to Crime Junkie Podcast, what are you doing with your life? I will say.
I agree. They're so
she
intriguing.
is that girl. She is that girl.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories.
This is not related to true crime. Again, today I don't have a great pivot.
It's fine. Well, we've been dark, so we need to change this.
Yeah, we need to lighten it. Well, this is not really going to lighten it up.
Give it a try.
Have y'all? So I went down I have been on and off going down another rabbit hole. What do y'all think about this rise in people going no contact with parts of their family?
I don't want to talk about this.
Oh, I subscribe.
I was going to say, I think it happens most often or you hear about it happening most often with parents, but it's happening with like siblings, that aunt of yours who always made you uncomfortable with her comments at every family function, but you felt like you had to just take it kind of thing. And now the younger generations are just being like, listen, I have a boundary. You refuse to respect it. So peace out, Girl Scout.
All in. Protect your peace at all costs. I think that is a very important lesson. And forget about your family for a second, because they're a bunch of yahoos, right? But at the end of the day, if there's a friend you formerly had, right, that turns you into a villain, if there is, someone who just you feel exhausted every time you talk to them, the only person who can protect your peace, who can make you happy, who can do those things is you. And I don't think people need an explanation either. Like, I think that's the one area where people mess up is they try to like go and explain like, I'm cutting you off because in section 3248 of the friend code, you blah, 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 right? Like, no, you don't have to say anything. You can just be done.
Here's the thing. When I first started, it started on TikTok because somehow this content started getting served up to me. And at first I was hearing about stories and seeing things through the lens of the person who went no contact, who initiated no contact.
Right.
And then at some point the algorithm shifted and I started to see stories from people who were on the other side and had been told by someone they were going no contact. And it's a really complicated thing because we're also living it, like, on the one hand, our culture now allows for talking more about therapy topics. Going to therapy is more widely accepted. Talking about these concepts you learn about in therapy is more widely accepted. People are learning more, so they are learning how to better advocate for themselves and establish those boundaries and go no contact when it's necessary. But on the flip side, words like narcissist and narcissism and triggered and boundaries have become buzzwords that are getting latched onto and over exaggerated. So you also, I think, have this swing that's happening where when there's any amount of friction, which I'm sorry, happens in a village, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a second, but it's like, are we now shooting in the other direction where some younger people are finding, like the whole COVID thing and not having the social stuff to know how to navigate social, what's the word I'm looking for?
Social cues.
Just anything, like, I'm having a total brain
You
fart.
can't-
And they're
you
just
can't-
shutting down. They're like, okay, this is my bubble. This is what's supposed to go on in my bubble. And if you can't, get with all these boundaries or these standards I've got for what goes on in my world, you just don't get to be a part of it, and cutting out the village entirely.
Well, that's the world today, though. Remember, well, this is like a totally when we grew up episode. I think that's the title.
That's
we're
the
coming up
title.
with. Yeah. But when we grew up, you could have a conversation about opposing viewpoints. And it was actually a conversation. It wasn't an argument. It wasn't polarizing. It wasn't immediately your side is wrong and you're dead to me and blah, 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 blah. Right. Like it didn't escalate. It was like you know what? We can still be friends. We can still agree that things are different and that's okay. Today, there's very few spaces, I would say, left in the world where you can have that kind of conversation and walk away with that kind of outcome. And I think that's the one thing that's changed. Now, what I will say is I've been on both sides of that. I have cut people off like no tomorrow, and I have also been cut off. I think the one thing you need to do in that situation is be clear. You need to be clear that you are intentionally walking away. Because if you're not clear that you're intentionally walking away, so the person who walked away from me never told me and just one day wasn't getting back to me. And that's just like, that is really hard to understand and process because it's like you're just disappearing. And
Well,
if
it
you
says a
wanna
lot for
disappear-
how a person values the relationship to begin with. Because if you value it, then you assumably would have given the other person the opportunity to understand how it's not working for you and
Right.
give them the opportunity to care and change if they wanted to. And only when they find it that they can't or they refuse to, do you then do something like no contact.
So this was a person, back to your village comment, that was my village. The kids would hang out every weekend. We would go everywhere together. There were always family dinners, everything. And just one day, it changed. And seemingly without warning, right? And then all of a sudden, I was the villain and I didn't know what happened. And it's okay for me to be the villain in your story. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. That doesn't mean I did anything. And you know what? To this day, still don't know what I did or didn't do, right? But the weird thing about it was like, you live several doors down from me. So it's not even like, that's a really, really awkward one of like, okay, so I see you. I can see that you're there. I clearly run into you at the school. I clearly run into you in all of these situations, but you've decided like, I just don't exist anymore.
Well,
And I think that's really hard versus if somebody's very clear and it's like, you know what, this isn't working for me. So, and you don't even have to explain why, but just say, this isn't working for me. So I'm going to need to step away. Okay, cool. Got it. Right. But
yeah.
you don't exist anymore. That's a really odd one.
Well, you said a lot of this is just the society that we're living in now. And I agree. I think where we are now is like Western culture seems to prioritize individual autonomy. Like, how am I going to live my best life? How am I going to achieve all the things I want to achieve? Have the family, have the career, have the whatever the thing is. And it's less about, there was a time where like just wanting to promote better for the village around you was the thing. Right. It was like, it was a community effort. It was, you weren't just looking inward, you were looking outward and looking around. And so I hear people say in social circles or on social media that they want a village and they miss having a village. But just based on the way most people operate, it seems like it's actually, no, you want support when you need support, but that's different than a village. To have a village, you have to also be a villager and have a village, not only in your actions, but in your mindset. When you're thinking about your priorities and how you spend your time and how flexible you're willing to be, both with your opinions, but also with the things you do and how you spend your time, it has to be for the good of your village, not just you and your nuclear family.
Well, and that reminds me, Cassandra, of the conversation we had with Brooke, right? When she was saying she really liked going to these community events because people were so authentic. And I said, yeah, but what happens when your authenticity is a conflict with someone else's authenticity, right? And then I think that's when people start to back away. That's when they don't want to be a part of the village. And maybe it's more about finding who your village is, right? Maybe that's a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think one good litmus test for this is if you, and I guess it depends on who all is, like what kind of village you guys have around you now. But if you try to really look inward and think about the couple people that you trust the most in your life. If they walked up, like your families were all together, and they jumped all over your child for something that they were doing that other adult considered to be inappropriate or whatever, what would your reaction be to them taking it upon themselves to help parent your child?
The two of you, actually no hilarious. Issue. Yeah, exactly. Because most of the time, if you've aligned yourself with someone who believes in the things the way that you've believed, then it's not a problem. I mean,
exactly.
My friend sent me a TikTok yesterday that was like, how you know your best friends, and there's a woman that's like getting on to her kid, and the other one's like, that's right. So it's like, oh no, I'm the mom, the one that's amening my friend that's saying, yes, get him. Because if you've aligned yourself with people who fit in your same mold,
well, and so we all feel that way, but there is such a huge population of people who their narrative
don't
is,
discipline my
don't
kid.
Tell me how to parent my kids. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't owe people an explanation. My time is my time, and I'm not saying that those opinions are wrong. I think to each their own.
Those people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't prescribe to that.
I don't either. But if that works for
you
and that suits your existence, sure. But those mindsets don't promote a village mindset, and it's not going to construct a village around you.
No, but they will definitely be an island because they don't want to be told or have any input, or they don't want to give or take.
Right.
And I think what's interesting too is when you get to the point where you have a parent, so your child is friends with someone, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that parent has the same values you have, right?
Correct.
But that parent takes it upon themselves to discipline your child. I have had that happen. I have gotten confronted by that other parent, right? And had a very polite and diplomatic conversation about how that wasn't acceptable. And then we never saw that group again. But that's also like a really weird one as a parent, right? Because you're not trying to ruin the relationship for your child.
Sure.
But your child experienced something that they should have never experienced, right? They weren't okay with it, right? And now you're in this weird situation. But I think the other thing I will say is what I found too in this particular instance I was in, the person was a chameleon. So the person came across as having the same values you did.
Yeah.
Right. Until put in a situation with people that they felt those values were better. So the other values that the other people had were better. And they decided, okay, now I'm going to be that. So I think, Cameron, to your point earlier, when you don't know who you are, right? And you can be an adult, you can be in your 30s, you can be in your 40s and 50s and 60s and have no idea of who you are.
Yep.
When you don't know who you are and you are that chameleon person that's in the village, which the village isn't going to know about because for the sake of the village, right, they appear just like everybody else until one day something comes along and that seems better. It's like people who get on a bandwagon, right? I'm only on there because it's the promotion. It's the thing I want to do now. Those are the people that I find can be really toxic to a village.
Yeah.
Right.
I also think proximity matters, because like I think back to where we lived before here. And it's not like, we weren't in the middle of nowhere. We could drive 15 minutes and be in the center of our town. We had neighbors.
you weren't in the middle of somewhere either. You were cutting chickens in your front yard.
We had more livestock as neighbors than we had people.
Right.
Right.
So, that compared to here, like I think about I don't know how I would have constructed the sort of village that we have here living there.
Right.
I just don't think it would have been possible. I would have had the same one or two
a smaller village friends, because you would have found
village.
Those people in shared activities or church or anywhere you go where there are people. You already share a like-minded something because you're going to the same place. Like where you live now, it's just people who happen to live in the same area.
But I think proximity makes a difference to what a village can provide for the villagers in it.
Sure. Absolutely.
So my village looked a lot different and checked off different boxes for me and me for them there than it does here. Like here, because of the proximity, we all can lean on each other literally a lot more because of the ease of it than I could have done when I lived kind of in the middle of nowhere. So say what you want about suburbs or neighborhoods where the houses are close together. And believe you me, I loved having space where I could do what I wanted and I didn't have to concern myself very much with neighbors. But, when you are still raising your kids, I prefer this existence. I really do. I didn't know that I would, but I do.
Well, but I think too, like when we moved here from Texas, that was one of the number one things we wanted land like we wanted in Texas, but at the same point, we were like, we need to move somewhere where we can have neighbors, where we can have a community, that sort of thing. I think what's weird too is moving into a new community versus established communities. So a new community, you don't really know about the neighborhood because people haven't moved in, right? Like you don't really know what's going to end up happening there. That can be a mixed bag. And that's what we found in that new community we originally moved into. What that community was when we got there versus where it ended were two totally different things.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one where, interest rates are falling. Congratulations. People are going to start moving around again, right? But I think as a parent, that's something you have to really consider of how much research can you really do about the village you're about to move into. And, more established areas, you can do a lot more research and find out if those are going to be your type of people. Because the last thing you want to do is move into a neighborhood with a ton of kids and you hate all the parents, right? Like you can't find a single person to get along with, right?
Oh, there are some here who.
Right. But you've also got enough, right? Where to your point, you've got that village.
The other side.
Right. And you could move into a place where you could be the lone wolf, right? And that's not what you would want for you and your kids. So that's definitely, sometimes proximity doesn't always equal a village.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I would just like to mention, as I was going down this rabbit hole, I took a few notes of some things, some food for thought that we can all consider. If this village conversation resonates with you and you are unhappy with your current circumstances, lack of a village, the state of your village, or you're now realizing, hey, I may not actually be showing up for my village. Some of the reasons why this village concept collapsed, the mobility thing you talked about, Rachel, So people move around a lot for work, do remote work, whatever it is. So if you're moving cities constantly for jobs, that's a thing. And it's hard to put down roots with a village if that's happening. Digital entertainment, everybody's just sticking to their screens, their devices, their gaming consoles, and they're not trying to socialize with people as much.
Which I'm so thankful that it's getting warm so we can go back outside.
Oh,
I'm so tired of being behind a TV screen. Like yesterday I went and worked from the deck and it's like, oh,
it's
glorious.
Beautiful. I love seeing the people out on the sidewalk walking. Oh, the kids running
Even
around.
though my dogs are kind of driving me nuts barking at everything, it's worth it.
Yes. We already talked about the whole like individual autonomy thing. So hyper individualism is a big thing, focusing on your sense of self and not really caring about the community. And then just the institutional outsourcing, like daycares.
Yeah.
Therapy services like that, like you're not looking for that in your village. So some answers to how to improve it if you want it to get better. Showing up when it's inconvenient goes a long way.
Yep.
Helping even if there's not an immediate return. Accepting influence from others, whether that's help with parenting or just opposing opinions to try to help you think outside the box. Sharing responsibility and just being accountable to the norms that are going on in your community. Like I'm sorry, but if you're looking around and everybody in the room feels like an a-hole,
maybe you're the a-hole.
Yeah, I mean, not saying you are, but sometimes you gotta look in the mirror.
Not saying you're not.
Well, thank you guys for being in my village.
Absolutely.
We have another heart moment.
Oh my gosh.
We can't
do that
on
that note,
no, we can't.
No. On that note, we are at time and we do need to say goodbye.
We are.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. We're glad you were here. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you like this sort of content, please give the show a follow, share it with a friend, rate us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on socials at Coffee Meets Cloud. Our website is coffeemeetscloud.com. We hope to see you next Tuesday. And until then, keep your coffee strong. See you ladies later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.